record the meeting. And welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please know that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmaster official speeches. If you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your video and audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please welcome our club president, TTM Andy Bern.
Thank you very much, Carolina, and welcome to each and every one of you. This is an important aspect of our club that we build teams, we build relationships, and we have fun. Today's program is not going to be an exception to that. I believe that we do have an induction built into the program, but I'm going to let our Toastmaster of the day, the master of ceremonies, the great speaker, Andrei Slovenko, turn over and take over the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Club President. Hello, fellow online presenters and guests. My name is Andrei Smolenko, and I will be your Toastmaster of the day for today. And I will not be doing all this by myself. I am going to introduce supporting role to the meeting. Overall, what the meeting structure is going to be. Now, first, a quite exciting bit. We have a quite unique tech tip presentation from one of our members, Pamela Benjamin. Then we're going to move into prepared speeches. We have 2 outstanding speakers booked for today. Then we're going to move a table topics session for our meeting, which is impromptu speaking between up to 2 minutes. Then evaluation. And we're going to wrap up with reports, some of the interesting parts of the evening from everyone who is involved into this evening to make sure it runs smoothly. And the theme of the evening today is persistence. So when we think about persistence, the opposite of it is stubbornness. Like my son, sometimes he can be really persistent and really charming, but most of the time he just stubborn. So when you talking, speaking, or evaluating during this evening, I would like you to remember about the balance between them two, and probably nothing to be in between, persistence and stubbornness. Keep it in mind. And moving on to the exciting parts of the evening, when I'm going to just probably speak less and let other people do it more. Our unique feature of online presenters is Tech Tip. Tech Tip is a short speech on latest news updates in tech, technology, leadership. And today, Pamela Benjamin with her Tech Tip speech. Please, Pamela, take it away.
Thank you. Do you have a lot of different projects that you would like to get done, but you're just not sure where to start or how to start? I have a video that I made. I'd like to share it with you.
Hello, my name is Pamela Benjamin. I'd like to know
if your schedule gets overwhelming? Do you have so many tasks that you can't get completed? Maybe it's because you didn't organize yourself well. Pamela Benjamin, declutter your schedule. Does this look like what your schedule is? Maybe your desk isn't as messy, but maybe your desk is much more messy. And you try to get everything lined up, and still there's problems. How do you easily organize important information? I know I struggle with that. I write it on a lot of different pieces of paper. I paste it around my home. I combine the list, and then I put those up in my home. I would like to introduce you to a digital file system that you can keep at your fingers on all your phones and computers. Now, maybe you just have one computer or one phone, but if you have an iPad, if you have a phone, if you have a desktop, if you have a work computer, you would be able to pull this up from your browser on all those different devices. And it makes it really handy to keep your information where you can see it. I want to introduce you to Oh No Nina. She is a pro at organizing her information. See, here's Oh No Nina. This is her YouTube channel. Her icon right here is the San Francisco Bay Bridge. And these are all the different tasks that she needs to get done. These are her 3 major workstations: YouTube, Webtoon, and TikTok. She's a very busy girl. She's so busy that she makes shopping lists. But what can we learn from Oh No Nina? First of all, she's very organized, isn't she? And she has a beautiful workspace that she's decorated with anime. This is her weekly task list. Not only does her workspace look beautiful, but so does her calendar. She kept it a very simple, light yellow, and she breaks down all of her concepts into small, bite-sized pieces so she doesn't get overwhelmed with it. Then you'll see that she's always publishing a lot of different videos, and this is how she does it. She doesn't get overwhelmed with the big process. Now, this is in more detail of her video production schedule. If you look here at the status, you will see all these different colors. This is where these are the videos that she's done. She's published these, and she's planning these, and she's editing the ones in green. And she has a long list of ideas. So she gets all of her ducks in a row, if you will, before she starts her day. And she's able to organize it in this very simple weekly task schedule. How does she do that? What tool is she using to do so many different projects at once? That tool is Notion. It helps you keep all your balls in the air, or maybe just from running all over the place. What are the benefits of Notion? It's flexible. It's very flexible. You can set up a lot of different types of workstations or just tracking pieces of information. It's affordable. If you are a single person, you can download it for free and use it as long as you like. It will replace a lot of different productivity apps, and there are many, many templates online. What are the cons? If you are looking to connect it to existing databases, there might be some challenges, and there's a little bit of version control, but they're working on it. It just needs a little improvement. I would like you to sign up for a free Notion account. Now, when you first start, you might not be as proficient at Nina, but you will start to make small steps on organizing something in your life. I really like how Nina organized her calendar and her production schedule. Next, If you would like more information about videos, about Notion, please contact me at Pamela@cleartechguys.com. Thank you.
Wow, what a brilliant tech tip. And I want to click on that link and just get to that website to get to know more how to do it properly. And the Japanese music on the background. Oh, I really enjoy that. Right. Thank you, Pamela. The next part of the meeting, I'm going to introduce supporting roles. Very important people who are going to help me to run this meeting as smoothly as possible. And I would like to start with our counter. Our counter is Adrian Williams. Please introduce your role.
Hello, everyone. I will be monitoring your speeches, and anytime you talk to share things that you say crutch words and well, but, so you know, and repeated words and phrases. Thank you.
Right, wonderful. Thank you very much, Madam Kansa. Really brief and concise introduction to your role. The next, a really important person for the evening without whom this meeting will never, ever run is our timer. Rick Darling, please introduce your role.
Thanks, Andre. As timer tonight, my job will be to track timing of speeches and anyone that's talking. I'll also be keeping an eye in general on the clock and nudging our Toastmaster relative to that as well. For our speakers, for instance, both of them are speaking 5 to 7 minutes. I will show a green at 5, yellow at 6, and red at 7. For our table topics, it will be 1, 1.5, and 2. And for our evaluators, 2, 2.5, and 3. Same symbols, same colors. And I will report on how everybody did against those timing elements when I'm called upon. Andre, back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Rick. Now, we know exactly what the timer will be doing during this meeting. The next person I'm going to call up on this virtual stage to introduce their role is Watcher Jim Barber. Please tell us what you're going to do and how you're going to do it.
With great pleasure, Mr. Toastmaster of the evening. As the watcher, think of me as a visual grammarian. I'm going to be watching for egregious uses of the background and exemplary uses of the visual screen. And it's just a darn shame that neither of those words are the word of the day. Instead of the word of the day is persistence. And I can't think of how to use that in my introduction. So I'm just going to simply leave it at that. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Jim, for the important introduction of your watcher's role. Next, I would like to call grammarian Sarah Idahan. Please introduce your role for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As grammarian, I will be listening for the word of the day. And the word of the day is indefatigable. And indefatigable means that it means untiring, basically. Incapable of being tired out, not yielding to fatigue, and untiring. And I'll be listening for that word throughout the evening. And when asked upon, I will give my report. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for introducing your role. And next, we're going to ask Kim Limin to introduce your role as chat monitor for this evening. Please, Kim.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, Andy. Tonight, as you said, I will be your chat monitor. So I'm another person who's going to be watching you tonight, but I'll be watching you on the chat. So I'm going to look for subjects that persist, and definitely we'll talk about the most, let me try this, indefatigable subjects. And we'll talk about those at the end of the meeting. Thank you so much. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Oh, well. Thank you, Kim. Kim already managed to put the words of the day, which is indefatigable. and it's in the chat. Our grammarian, Sarah Idahan, put it in the chat, so please pay attention to that indefatigable word. And there's one more person who's going to help me to run this meeting, and it's Vault Counter, Marianne Grady. Marianne, please introduce your role.
Well, this may come as a surprise to you, but my job is to count the votes. And tonight we won't be using the special tool. We'll just be voting via private chat to me. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Marianne. So old school today for the vote counting then, it is. Right, we introduced the supporting roles, we introduced the structure of the evening, and now we go into the prepared speeches segment. We'll have two excellent speakers who are going to enlighten us with their wisdom and hopefully some knowledge. The first speaker who is going to who I'm going to introduce is David F. Carr, DTM. David is working on Presentation Mastery Level 3, Increasing Knowledge, Researching and Presenting. And the title of his speech is Cryptic Currency. Are Bitcoin, the blockchain, and NFT the next big thing? Asking David. Or has the crypto craze been revealed as a scam? DTM David Carr will share some thoughts based on his research of the technology, the products, and the politics of crypto. David Carr, DTM.
Thank you, Andre. Part of my job these days is actually to be an analyst writing and speaking about cryptocurrency. I'm supposed to be smart about cryptocurrency, and I'm getting practice here talking about cryptocurrency. However, I am not necessarily a cryptocurrency enthusiast or believer. I actually tend to be sort of a late adopter on technologies sometimes. And I tend to find some of the arguments about why cryptocurrency might all just be a scam fairly persuasive and interesting. But I'm going to take you through some of what is going on in the market. You know, you might have heard cryptocurrency is crashing. The price of Bitcoin is crashing. And yet there are certainly arguments that, well, this is just a temporary setback. This is just like at the end of the 1990s, where all these dot-com companies went under, but emerging from the wreckage, we had Amazon, we had Google, we had these great companies who went on to do fantastic and interesting and technologically wonderful things. And so maybe it'll be like that. Or there is also the argument that what we've done is technologically recreated the banking and stock speculation system of the 1920s that resulted in the Great Depression. So let's hope that it is the former and not the latter. But we'll talk through just a few ideas about why you might believe each thing. So why to believe, the science, the skeptics, and some of the recent scandals, including the crypto lenders who told you could just bank your money with them and it would be perfectly safe. Turned out it wasn't so safe. So believe and be brave. Why would you believe and be brave? Well, maybe you'd believe because Matt Damon told you to, because he was in a commercial that said, fortune favors the brave, fortune favors the bold. You can be just like the Wright brothers and the guys who landed on the moon by investing in cryptocurrency. You should be a believer. And this year, there were so many cryptocurrency ads at the Super Bowl, the American football game, that they talked about it being the crypto bowl this year. So there are a lot of people telling you that you ought to believe, you ought to get over your skepticism. And even there was a Larry David ad where he was the naysayer, who of course was, the figure of fun there. Another reason you might believe is that there's been a lot of money flowing into this. And even after this downturn started, there were firms like Andreessen Horowitz raising big money. Now you might or might not remember that name. Mark Andreessen was the founder, or one of the founders, of Netscape. He was sort of the technological founder. And Netscape is one of those companies that flamed out at the end of the 1990s, but he went on to better things, including being one of the most successful venture capitalists, along with other people that he teamed up with. They picked a lot of winners. They've evangelized for the cloud over the years. And so if they believe in it, maybe there is something there that is for real. Now, what is this all about? This is cryptocurrency, and I can't explain all of it, but there is this thing called the blockchain. The blockchain was a concept of a different way of constructing databases that would be very distributed. It could be distributed all over the world. And the idea was around in in computer science circles for a number of years before it became popularized by this white paper by, nobody even knows who actually wrote it. It was published under a pseudonym. It was talking about this vision of a decentral financial future where we wouldn't have to trust banks, we wouldn't have to trust governments, we wouldn't have to trust anybody. We would just trust in the blockchain, which is this immutable distributed database. It's supposed to be very hard to tamper with, the way it is constructed, the way each cryptographically linked block of data is linked to every other. You shouldn't be able to mess with it. And yet, some of the people who it has been most popular with over the years are ransomware ripoff artists who would go into companies, encrypt all their data, hold it for hostage, and the way that you would pay the ransom was by paying in Bitcoin. So big companies had to learn how to buy Bitcoin just for that purpose, if no other. And the quote there from Arthur Clarke is, if a renowned scientist says something's possible, he's probably right. He says it's impossible, it's probably wrong, which was used by science fiction fans to, would quote that line from Arthur Clarke to say why faster than light travel would turn out to be possible after all, despite the little problems that Einstein raised with that. The renowned scientist I think of is the computer scientist Grady Booch, who talks about the wasted effort, as he sees it, all the talent that has gone into this when they could have been doing something useful for the world. They were playing around with cryptocurrencies and convincing people to invest in nothing, in sheer belief. You buy cryptocurrency, you buy NFTs, these digital artworks, largely because you think other people believe in them and will take them off your hands. That's part of the critique. And of course, when cryptocurrency crashed, he couldn't help gloating a little bit. It was a thoughts and prayers moment for him. Some of the research I've done on this is on the area of cryptocurrency lending, which was where you were supposed to have a relatively safe way of getting rich off of crypto. You just put it in the bank as sort of a bank account. And these bank accounts paid very high interest, like 18% interest, which is a lot higher than you could get from the bank, even if it was interest on cryptocurrency funny money. And part of what I looked at was how they became so popular. It was by advertising against that notion of how do I invest? How do I get rich? How to get in on this? But right now we're at a moment where we've gone from fear of missing out to fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And so things are changing a little bit in the cryptocurrency world right now. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, David, for your insightful into the cryptocurrency world speech. Just a quick reminder about our speaker speeches today. They time between 5 to 7 minutes. So the red lights, as you can see from our timer, is who's supposed to be pinned on your top left corner. In case speaker is not sure, it's just right there. So when the red light is on, you have 30 seconds to wrap up. The next speaker for today, I'm going to introduce is Andrew Bern, DTM. Andrew is working on his dynamic leadership level 1, mastering fundamentals, writing a speech with purpose. His speech is called the 5 C's. Who is not busy with their activities in their life? The 5C is beginning of a multiple speech project. The 5 C's are 1, chaos, 2, complexity, 3, clarity, 4, calendar, 5, completion. Dynamic leadership teaches how to conquer the 5 C's in goal setting. Our lives can seem to be like taking a trip down the rapids of the white water. Let's take the trip together. Andrew Bern, welcome. Andrew, you're muted.
Thank you very much. This project is Mastering Fundamentals. We're on a speech with purpose. I asked myself, what purpose, what message do I have in delivering this speech? The speeches I was imagining, what if I was asked to do a 50-minute speech at a TLI or a Toastmasters International Leadership Meeting? 50 minutes, not our normal 5 to 7. What would I do? What would I include? How would I put it together? That brought up a remote memory when I met Johnny Campbell. Johnny Campbell, for those that know of him, was a professional speaker. He started out as a human resources director in Palm Beach, and he learned from his company that he was going to be let go. In fact, most of his department was going to be let go. And he sat down and thought, I need to become a professional speaker that gets paid right away. How do I do that? At the time, it was the legacy program. You had competent communicator, and there were 10 basic speeches in there. And he said, I'm going to have to do a speech where all professional speeches are at least 50 minutes. So what I'm going to do is turn that competent communicator requirement and break it down into those 10 slices and work on each slice and then put it all together for my professional speech, which he did. And I thought about that and I said, you know, if you had to write a speech for Toastmasters training that was 50 minutes, this might be a good way of doing it. Going through each of the projects you have in a particular pathway, breaking it down so that you could then, at the end, put it back together again. So that's what I did. I remembered his story, and I remembered the 5 C's. And as I was thinking about this, I had no prior contact with Pamela talking about Notion, although she did interest me in that, and I began to work with that. So I ask you, as you have your busy life, who is not busy? Let me see a hand. Who's not busy? Nobody. Everybody's busy. Everybody's crazy busy. In fact, if you're going to have an image on the screen, I put an image of somebody that was in quicksand up to their neck, and that's how they are living their lives. So the 5 C's that I came up with are part of the breakdown of future speeches. The first is chaos. We all live in chaos to some degree or not. The second one is complexity. Things are complicated. The third is clarity. As we start putting our lives together, putting our issues together, we start having some clarity of what our purpose is. And I go back now to Stephen Covey, who said, start with the end in mind. If you know where you're supposed to end up in, then you should start off your process saying, what can I do to achieve that? In this case, my end in mind is to finish another pathway. My end in mind is to have it coordinated so that I actually have a 50-minute speech built out of my different segments. My purpose is to be engaging, to raise some issues, and for you to imagine. The fourth C is calendar. One of the reasons we are confused and chaotic is because we don't manage our calendars. If we manage our calendars better, we can be more organized. This is where it's also problematic because there's so many choices. If you looked around you and said, what kind of calendar program are you using? Some people would pull out a paper calendar. Some people will pull out Outlook. Some people pull out Fantastical. Others will pull out Google's product of Google Calendars. There are many, many calendars, and therefore you can get lost in the complexity of which calendar I use, which one fits my personality and ability to do stuff. And then the fifth C is completion. How do you set up the purpose of your speech? How do you set up the projects that you have to do along the way and get that organized in such a way that you will have completion guaranteed because you are organized, you're thoughtful, you're breaking down that chaos, you're dealing with that complexity, you're forming clarity in your thought process as you're going through the projects. You have a calendar and you can figure out how to use that and then do completion. I had no knowledge that Pam was be doing a talk on Notion. But several weeks ago in the club, or maybe more than that, she talked about Notion. And because of that, she got my curiosity. And I probably spent about 15, 20 hours going through videos on Notion trying to learn it. But the one thing that really caught my attention as I was going through these different people that have been talking about Notion, which was released in June of 2018, is the number of people that have made a lot of money by using this program, and usually in a consulting capacity. One guy dropped out of medical school. Well, he finished his medical school. He dropped out of practicing medicine because currently he's making more than $1 million a year using Notion and helping other people use Notion and apply it to their lifestyle. Another individual is currently exceeding $5 million a year. Now, if I told you that Toastmasters is great, it can help you in your life, and everybody would be excited about that. But what if I told you using this program in this way could make you $5 million or $1 million? Would you be even more excited? I was curious. Could I apply the principles of Notion and convert over the entire Toastmasters program for someone that knew nothing about Toastmasters into Notion and let them guide, provide clarity, get rid of the complexity and chaos? And I said, that's an interesting project. And going down this process, finishing speeches with a purpose, going to go through all the stuff in the pathway, and at the end, have a 50-minute talk to present this stuff at a TLI. Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for your insightful and really interesting speech on 5 C's. So many things to take away with me today. Mr. Timer, I would like to ask you for your reports for our 2 outstanding speakers today.
I posted it in chat. David was 7:28 and Andrew was 6:46. They are both within time.
Excellent. So thank you, Mr. Timer, Rick Darling. So both speakers are qualified for your votes. Just a reminder, you can send your votes by a private chat to Marianne Grady, who is our vote counter for today, and she's waving at us. You can see her on your screens. Send her private chat, so please do it now. Or is David Carr or Andrew Bern for the best speaker. Now, we are going to another exciting part of the evening. Look, you probably heard me saying exciting and another exciting and even more exciting parts of the evening. And I can't wait to pass it on to my colleague who is going to continue running this meeting nicely, smoothly, and with a bit of excitement in the air. And is table topics master, Johnny Laidlaw. Please take it away.
Thank you, our Toastmaster of the day. What's the point of evaluation? Toastmasters tend to stress that a lot, and most people look at it as you telling me what I am or am not doing. In my infatigable attempt to understand what persists in the minds of others, I came up with a bit of a game that we can do, if my text will allow it. Let me try again. That way, we can better understand the evaluation process and basically what it's for. And it might also assist all of us in understanding what's happening with others. So this is my text until I get on. I don't know what it is about Murphy and showing up when I'm doing this. But let's see if we can spot the difference. Let's go. All right, what I'm going to ask is for each person who comes up, and I'm going to randomly call you, to find the difference and tell me how you did it. And I am going to start with Karen. And you're going to do it as a table topic speech.
Thank you, Table Topic Master. So, whoops, your picture went, but at a quick glance, the difference I saw was a blanket on the back. One was blue, one was pink, and then a pink flower or something that I saw that was very different. I think when I think about differences, or when I look at two different things, color is something that shows difference and a comparative analysis. But also how something makes you feel. I think for me, color, if it's very bright, it actually makes me feel a little bit more happier. If it's darker, then that actually impacts my mood. So as I looked at both of those, I would say color would be the thing that was a differentiator for me when I looked at both. I would have loved to seen it a bit longer, but that is what I would say would be the difference between. So it was a blanket on the snail's back. One had a blue one had a pink one, and there was a flower somewhere there. So I think it's more, it's about how visual image hits us and how we feel as our brain interpret the visual image. So that's how I would say would be what impacts me and how I see differences. Thank you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you for that perspective. It is about color and the color that you saw that helped you to spot the difference. I'm fascinated by that because for most people, they would have done the comparison first. Next question will be in the form of a question. How do you handle Murphy showing up and remaining persistent? And I am going to ask Antoinette Shrimp to answer that one.
Table Topics Master, could you please repeat your question to me?
How do you handle Murphy showing up and remaining persistent?
Thank you for that question in terms of how I interpret it in terms of persistence. Firstly, I would like to say that I am a determined person in the sense that whatever I put my hand to do, I try to do it to the best of my ability, despite the various challenges that come my way. For example, when I started my master's in psychology, at first I was asking myself, can I really do this? Because most of the time, before you start to do your master's, you must have a first degree. And I did not have a first degree. I had an associate degree. And I jumped from having an associate degree to skip over the bachelor's and then straight to master's. Most of my friends told me that I'm a mad woman. How on earth could I have done that? However, with all that negative talk, I was very persistent. I had to overcome so many different challenges, not only negativity of my friends and family, but also my inward ability as well. As I always thinking, I can't do that. But through God's help and my determination, and I always, as someone mentioned before, you always start with the end in mind. And that is what I did. I started with the end in mind, and I've reached the end. And that is why I have achieved degree. Back to you.
I like
the
that.
topics master.
I like that. Whatever your mind or your hand finds to do, you do it to the best of your ability. And based on that, that's what gets you to continue. The next question is going to be, again, in the form of a picture. We're trying it another way. What was the first thing that you saw? And tell me why. This goes to Toastmaster Carl Walsh.
Right. Well, the first thing I saw was the lion. And then as I looked around, I saw the tree, I saw the gorilla as the picture filled in. But the face of the lion was so powerful. It had an indefatigable force about it in a way that lions are persistent in what they want. And so that speaks to me definitely. So it was interesting that the colors, the difference in the colors, and that you had yellow and you had black, so that we could see them differently, but in a way they blended in as well. And actually, if I had longer to look at the picture, I might find even more things in it. Maybe there is something that I'm missing there. But definitely the lion. I love lions. In fact, the one thing I would really like to see in it is an elephant, because I just think elephants are just magnificent, grand creatures that have a beautiful society and a beautiful way of living. And one recommendation that I would make to everybody is a wonderful book called The Elephant Whisperer, where you'll really understand what they are all about. But then if you look at the lions, they as well have a beautiful culture in many ways, as many animals do. And these are just wonderful inhabitants on our planet. And I love them all. Thank you. Back to you.
All right, lovely, Carl. I am happy that through the colors, you picked out the lion first. I love big cats, but like you as well, I like elephants, and that's a good book recommendation. Timer, do we have time for any more table topics?
I was about to ping you one more.
Okay, all right. So for the last one, what did you see first? And this is going to go to Toastmaster Deborah Carr.
She did one already, Deborah Carr.
Oh, she did?
Did the first one.
My apologies. That was the one where Murphy. Karen, Antoinette, Carl, Deborah did my first one.
No, I thought according to my notes, I've got Kieran.
Karen,
Antoinette,
you're right. Okay. Okay. I know I knew Murphy stood in, but I know I didn't ask Deborah yet. But what I'll do, Deborah, just because there was a bit of a sidetrack, let me show you one more time so you get it cued again. Are you ready? What did you see first and why? And we're being persistent and not allowing this to be indefatigable.
I'm an animal lover. I always have been, and the most absurd things that I've ever seen in my life are truly with animals. There was a squirrel that was running across the street the other day with the bird pecking at its fanny, and it was jumping and screaming and howling, and that bird wouldn't let it up. And I don't know what in the world that squirrel did, but it caused havoc. So when I first saw this, boom, two of my loves, cats and a dog, and the heart for love that I have for animals. It's really fun, throughout the life we had, when you're raising a family, it seems like you have anything that, that could come home with a kid came home, regardless if it was holiday vacation or if it was, they just wanted to bring it home to live. And there was one time that the kids asked, they said, can we have? And I said, does it eat? And they said, yes. And I said, no, we're done. There was one rule, nothing slithered, nothing with feathers, but I said, we're done. We've hit our limit. But there's always room for one more, and it's cats, dogs, and the big heart that we always have for animals and their absurdity, true absurdity, just like that squirrel and that bird running across the street the other day. I just never did figure that out. But back to you, Madam Toastmaster, or Topic Master.
Thank you. I too love animals. I can say that squirrels are cute. Fun fact, they fall in a power pose that looks like superheroes. You should Google it. Very endearing and will increase the heart, just like you said, with that being the first thing that you saw with the cat and the dog. Our timer, well, this ends my table topic period, and I now return control of the virtual lectern to my Toastmaster today.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Table Topics Master. Our timer has put the table topics participants timing in the chat. Looks like all of them qualified. I hope I'm correct. So you can vote again by sending DM is the message to our vote counter, Marianne Grady, in private chat. Pick one winner, just one winner for the table topics. And moving to the next section, if I believe we have a new, is it officer induction ceremony? Am I correct? If we have a officer induction ceremony today, then who is going to do it?
You're muted, Andrew.
Usually it's the immediate past present unless you have brought in a functionary of some note to do it.
I've just stepped down as division director in my local division. Would you like me to do it since I'm not on the outgoing or incoming committees?
Yes, please. Wonderful, Graham.
Ladies and gentlemen, Toastmasters and guests, one of the things that we promised to do when we joined Toastmasters, and you may remember that there was a promise that you agreed to when you joined Toastmasters. There are 10 different things in that promise. One of the things that we promised to do is act as a leader in the club when called upon to do so. Before I introduce the incoming committee, I would ask all of those that were serving in a role on this committee last year to please say hello. Stick your hands up if you were on last year's committee. Can we give them all a round of applause because they've done a marvelous job in keeping this club going really well for the past 12 months. It's been a difficult year, we all know that, but this club has gone from strength to strength. So thank you to all of those members of the committee for the last year. And it is now with much gratitude that I tell you, you can lay down your troubles, lay down your tools and go back to being an ordinary Toastmaster. Unless, of course, you've stood for the committee again this year. And let's go through those committee roles. And I'll start at the bottom in the terms of the list as we normally see them, and that is the Sergeant at Arms. The Sergeant at Arms for this club in the coming year is, I believe that's Carolina. Carolina, your job is to act as the master host for the club. You keep the club starting on time. You look after the equipment if we had any equipment. You certainly are responsible for making sure that our Zoom payment is made. And you are, if you like, the mine host for the whole club. Are you willing to take on this role of service?
Of course.
Good. Excellent. Then let's move to the treasurer of the club. Who is the club's treasurer this year? The treasurer, Sarah, is about stewardship, looking after the club's money, because it's the club's money. It's not our money. It's not Toastmasters' money. It's the club's money. It's the money that belongs to all of us. And so to act as the treasurer is to act as the steward of the club's funds. You're willing to take on that role, Sarah?
Yes, I am.
In that case, congratulations, Madam Treasurer. The secretary of the club this year is? Nobody's volunteering.
It's Natasha.
It's Natasha. Natasha's not here. Well, Natasha's job is to make sure that all of the paperwork is done. And we hate paperwork. We all hate paperwork, but the paperwork is essential because the secretary acts as the conduit between Toastmasters International and the club members, keeping us up to date with anything that's coming from Toastmasters International and letting Toastmasters International know what's happening within this club. So we'll accept Natasha taking on that role on her behalf, won't we? Yes, we will. Yay, thank you, Natasha, for doing that. Moving on to the Vice President membership. Now, I suppose, who's VPM this year?
That would be me.
That would be you, Kim. I mentioned that we hate paperwork, but if there's one role that is all about paperwork, it's being the Vice President membership, because the Vice President membership is the one who makes sure that the members' experience is dealt with, that their membership has been paid, that they are getting the acknowledgement that they deserve, that they are, if you like, the administrator of the club. And so do you take on the role of Vice President membership, Kim?
Thank you, I do, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. We're looking forward to you dealing in that job well. Thank you very much, Kim. Vice President, Public Relations. There's no club if there are new members. One of the things that we've discovered over the years is that Toastmasters expects about 40% of members will leave any club in any given year. Now, that sounds like an extraordinarily high churn rate, but in fact, it is what it is. About 40% of members will drift away because life gets in the way. They need to be replaced. The Vice President, Public Relations, is the person who draws members to our club. Who is our VPPR this year? That would be Karen. Karen, do you accept the responsibility of drawing to the world's attention the wonder that is online presenters?
Yes, I do.
Then I expect that you will do a fabulous job, and I look forward to you doing so. Thank you very much. Probably the busiest role in a Toastmasters club is the Vice President Education. Who's our VPE for this year? That would be David. David is the one with the helium arm. He wasn't able to say no when somebody asked, would you take on the busiest role? Because the purpose of the Vice President Education is to make sure that our educational needs are being met, that every member of this club gets to grow and develop as a better learner, as a better speaker, as a better leader, as a better communicator, as a better Toastmaster, as a better person. David, it's a tough job, but will you do that this year?
You betcha.
Excellent. Then I look forward to seeing some innovative plans coming from the Vice President Education. And the president of the club has the easiest job of all, but also the most difficult, because the president, and who is our president this coming year? That would be Andrew. The president doesn't actually have to do anything if the other members of the committee are doing their jobs right. But the president has to make sure that they are doing their job. So I keep telling all new committee members, it's not necessarily your job to do these things, but it's your job to make sure that these things are done. Andrew, your job is leadership, to lead this club and to help us grow and develop. Do you pledge that you will do that this year?
I do.
In that case, fellow members of Online Presenters, will you please welcome and congratulate your incoming committee for 2022-2023. Well done, all of you, for stepping up. And that is the induction of new club members. So I'll now hand control back to our Toastmaster for the evening.
Thank you very much, Graham, for this impressive induction. And welcome all our new club, super powerful members to the committee. Look, today meeting, I hope it's been running on persistent scale, and we had 2 prepared speeches, we had table topics, we had even new committee induction ceremony. Now, another exciting part of the evening, and we're going to evaluation. I'm going to pass on the stage to, again, Graham Carr, our general evaluator. Please take it away, Graham.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you very much for that warm welcome. And thank you, by the way, for the warm welcome which you presented to everybody when you were introducing them tonight. Part of the job of the Toastmaster of the day is to be the master of ceremonies, the person who is the linchpin around which the meeting revolves. Now, I'll be giving Andre a written evaluation on this because he is doing the role tonight of Toastmaster of the day as a Pathways project. I'm trying to remember which project it was, but it doesn't matter. I'll fill it in later. And that, by the way, is something that all members should be aware of. Almost everything that you do in a Toastmasters club fits into one Pathways project or another. It's a level 4 elective that Andre is doing today.
Meeting.
All right, so I will be giving him a written evaluation, but I want to begin by saying, well done, Andre, on keeping the meeting going, keeping the meeting smooth, but most importantly, in making every member of the meeting feel that their contribution was valued. Andre was warm and supportive and got the meeting started on time. It is a pity that we were still throwing the agenda together at the very last moment, and I understand how that happens, particularly in an online club where some members literally cannot get here until right on the start. But if there is any doubt that you can make it, if you can please let somebody know that you're not going to make it, that will make the job of the Toastmaster so much easier because they're not still thrashing around at the last moment thinking, I don't know whether my evaluator is going to be here or whatever. Another observation that I would make for Andre is that we were already about 5 minutes late when we were getting to the first speaker. That's because the ancillary roles took a little longer to introduce than they might have. But Andre then brought us back on time, which is something that a Toastmaster should be doing. So learn from Andre what he did well tonight. The tech tip I thought was well designed and some really good information. From an online presenter club perspective, though, if I can make one suggestion, it would be that you need to turn your microphone off because we were hearing the audio coming from the video, which is what was intended, but we were also hearing your microphone, Pamela. So when you were shifting your microphone, we could hear it being moved. So just a little thing there, leave the audio on from the video, but turn off your microphone. But there you go. And also, I would suggest that you might like to have put the links in the chat. For example, I looked up the information and the website for Notion, but I did. I'm not sure that other members did. You might have just put the link to Notion and to your website into the chat so that we can get it there. I'm just realized I've gone through all of the ancillary roles so far, but I haven't yet got to the evaluators, and they're the most important part because we need to evaluate the evaluators. And so let's move to the first of our evaluators this evening, and evaluating David's speech. Will you please welcome our first evaluator, Kieran Hall. Kieran, all yours.
Thank you. Is cryptocurrency a scam? When I heard that, I thought, gosh, David wrote a speech just for me. Like, how amazing is that? Then he said he's an expert. And I'm thinking, gosh, I'm in the right place after all. Because when I hear cryptocurrency, blockchain, it's like somebody speaking to me in Chinese. So thank you, David, because that introduction sparked curiosity, and I was the right audience for that speech. David went on to display his expertise. He gave us through structure why we actually have embraced crypto with macadamians, with the validation that crypto has gotten, how it compares to the .com market. And with graphics, he took us there. With stories and players in the market, he took us there. This was all brilliant, and thank you. You're able to, through story structure, dissect it to someone like myself, who gets like really scared and feel very stupid when anyone's talking about crypto, that I understood it. And I want to say thank you for that. How could you have improved this speech at all? Well, one tip would be at the very start, the first slide was a static slide. And we were on that slide where it was not moving for perhaps maybe a minute or more. I would have really enjoyed seeing your face and hearing you speak, because there's no movement on that screen. So that's perhaps would be one recommendation, because it is a slideshow and there were no videos, there were primarily static slides. Second thing I would have also liked, because you told us a lot of stories of the professor and the scientist, his point of view. Really like the fact that you went to Twitter and the visual displays were fantastic. You took us, in many different places. That worked really well. I would have also liked to hear your story. So as an expert, how do you deal with your point of view around, is it a scam or is it not in a professional environment? So perhaps maybe one personal story where you either, you had to deal with something, like balancing those two, the continuum. I would have loved to hear that, I think, as well. So it makes it even a bit more personal around David. In terms of your knowledge, infatigable, I'm saying a word of the day wrong, but I think I would say it was so apparent that this was you're in your wheelhouse. This was such a well-chosen speech for you, and your ability to deliver it to this audience. I think you did an incredible job. And I want to say thank you. I thought you met your threshold about researching and delivering. So thank you very much, and for making this understandable. Thank you. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Kieran. Thank you for that masterful evaluation. Moving on to our second evaluator tonight, and that's Carolina. Carolina will be evaluating the second speech tonight, which of course we had from Andrew. So Carolina, once again, for a time of 2 to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Raham. The purpose of this project was to learn or review basic methods for writing a speech with a defined purpose and to present a well-organized speech on any topic. This speech was well written and clearly focused. And Andy gave us very useful tips how to conquer the 5 C's in goal setting: chaos, complexity, clarity, calendar, and completion. At the beginning, he caught our attention with a question: who is not busy with the activities in their lives? With that question, we immediately paid attention to the speech in order to get some information that can help us in our daily lives. To me, it was very interesting because it's a problem that I have every day. And that is very important, to choose topics according to your audience. Choose a topic that can catch the attention of the public. We could see that Andy is a very experienced speaker. He excelled in clarity, vocal variety, audience awareness, comfort level, and purpose. And he used a story to illustrate this method. To make this speech even better, I suggest looking at the camera. That is very difficult. in order to improve the eye contact. I noticed that maybe you were using notes, but it's better. I think it's better if you can switch your eyes between your notes and the camera in order to engage the audience even more. Looking forward for your next speech, Andy, and thank you for the tips. Mr. General Evaluator, back to you.
Thank you, Carolina, for that evaluation. Evaluation is, as mentioned, the keystone, the cornerstone, the crux of the Toastmasters experience. And so part of my role as General Evaluator is to evaluate those things which have not already been evaluated, and that includes the evaluators. Let me make a couple of observations, if I can, about the two evaluations which we've just seen, which I believe were two really good, strong evaluations. Kieran spoke about David's strengths and his ability to distill that information, which I thought was particularly well done. Well done on that, Kieran, and also well done on making some suggestions for David, like, for example, how he could have improved it by changing the slides and not having static slides. He pointed out himself in the chat afterwards that perhaps he should have held off on screen sharing until he had something that was worth sharing. But well done on that. One observation I would make for Kieran is, and I would make this for everybody, all evaluations are from our own personal perspective. And so I would suggest when you're giving an evaluation that you stress that others may have found it different, but from my perspective, it would work better if. And that A, softens any criticism that you've got, B, lets everybody else think, well, I disagree with them, but I see why they're making that point, and C, makes you focus about what it is that you are thinking. So that's just a suggestion that I would make for every evaluation, but I really enjoyed the way that you praised David for the things that were worth praising and reminded him that those are things that it's worth him sticking with. Carolina's evaluation outlined the purpose of the speech, which Andrew gave us, and that's something that doesn't often happen in a Toastmasters club. It should. We should always know, either at the introduction of the speech or in the introduction of the evaluation, what the purpose of the presentation was. And Carolina did a great job of outlining that. She also reminded us of Andrew's 5 C's, which he referred to during his speech. One suggestion I might make for you, Carolina, is, since that obviously drew your attention, you might have pointed out that Andrew didn't go back to those 5 C's and remind us of what they were at the end, because I thought that was one of the key points of his presentation, and I would really like it if he had repeated them at the end so that we could jot them down. As it was, I put them in the chat because I thought they were worth jotting down. Also, really good of Carolina to point to the use of the camera, particularly important in an online club. So well done on both of our evaluators. Both of our evaluators, I believe, met their time objectives. Yes, they did. Kieran 3:16 and Carolina 1:50. So they are both eligible. Can you please send your vote via private chat to our vote counter, Marianne Grady, for best evaluator between Kieran and Carolina. Moving on to everybody else in the role. Table Topics Master Joni, I thought the questions were really good today. I really enjoyed them, and I loved the fact that it gave us a chance to have to think about how we observe things. I'm not entirely sure of the value of using the screen in this environment. In a brick and mortar club where you can bring it up on the screen behind you, that's quite effective. In this, where you have to turn the screen straight off so that we can see the speaker, it may not work as well. But having said that, it was also really useful that we didn't get a lot of time because we had to make instant judgments, and that led to some really good table topics. For example, Kieran's topic about choosing to speak about how we see the differences and how seeing those differences shapes and impacts on us, I thought was a really good table topic. Well done on that. Antoinette, talking about Murphy's Law and persistence, my initial question was whether Antoinette was familiar with the concept of Murphy's Law, because there seemed to be a sort of I'm not sure where this is going, look in her face. But then I realized, yes, no, she was just using that time to get into her point. And she got into her point and made a really good one there, launching into an example and then return to the beginning, which is something that I really like to see done in a table topic. So well done there. For Carl, persistent, indefatigable lions. I can see the persistent, indefatigable lions coming at us, but I also like the fact that Carl talked about everything in such a way that I didn't notice what it was that he wasn't saying. And what he wasn't saying was what he actually felt, except that he left us with the fact that he liked elephants above all of these things, and that we should go and check out the book, The Elephant Whisperer. I'm going to go and check that out. I see why Carl is an award-winning speaker. Well done. And Deborah, the story of the bird chasing a squirrel, I thought was just delightful. And that's a really good way to approach a table topic. If you want to talk about the subject in a general sense, think of a story and then bring that to the specific, which is what Deborah did tonight. She used the story of the squirrel being attacked and having its butt beaked by a bird. She then spoke about her children, and they were going to bring home a pet, whether they intended to, whether this was going to be allowed or not. I love those stories. Stories work. So well done, Deborah. I think that all of the speakers tonight did a great job, but it's now my chance to find out what you think. For example, how many ums and ahs were there? Adrienne, can you give us your R counters report?
Well, you guys, I thought it was going to be 0. However, I'm not going to call anyone in particular, but I just want to say overall, we had over 10 ands, over 2 souls, buts, which are crutch words. We had over 11 ahs, over 30 ums, over 2 ers, and there was a repeated word, the, in one of the presentations. So I'm going to challenge you to go back and watch yourself on the video, because we normally are very good with these words. We usually don't have a whole lot of it, but we have been laxed in this area, and it's something that we need to tighten up on. So if you could please just watch your segment. I don't want to call anyone's name. We all can improve on there. I think only have 2 or 3 people that didn't have anything. Everybody else had something. So I challenge you to work on that, Mr. Evaluator.
We will have to check that when we watch the tape. Thank you for that. Mary and Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. We did pretty well on our indefatigable word tonight. Andre, 1. Carl Walsh, Graham Carnes, Karen Hall, and Kim Lins. I also would like to bring to attention of Antoinette Trim used the word persistent, which is in line with our theme for tonight. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Sarah. And who was it spoke about something being in the wheelhouse? I heard that phrase tonight and I thought that is a delightful phrase. I can't remember who used it. It might have been Kim. No, it was Kieran. I thought that was a really nice touch. Well done. Watcher Jim. Watcher.
Yes, Mr. General Evaluator. I'll make this quick. Everybody was great. I love your visual presence in every case, your lighting, your visual use of the visual frame, your backgrounds, everything worked. I have one suggestion. A couple of members, I'm not going to name names, have a tendency, I realize for most of it's been a long day, but you have a tendency as the meeting goes on to use a technical term, we settle and we get down towards the bottom of the screen. Take a look at yourself in gallery view periodically and make sure that you still look okay. You look as well as you started the meeting. That's it, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jim. Well done. Kim, you've been keeping an eye on the chat. Is there anything that we need to know?
So the chat was really fun and active tonight, and it became especially active after each speaker. So after Pamela's tech tip, oh my gosh, everybody was so impressed with your tech tip, Pamela, including myself, and just a lot of chat about that. After David's speech, there was a lot of people who were thankful that they didn't get into crypto. And it just made many people very happy about not doing that. Graham made the most awesome comment in the chat. He said, crypto is the 21st century version of the Dutch tulip bulb bubble. I have no idea what that means, but it sounded really cool and descriptive. After Andy's speech, there was a lot of talk about one of the C's in particular, which was the paper calendar. A lot of us didn't know those still existed, maybe in the museums, maybe, I don't know, but that was kind of a fun topic as well. And the winner of tonight's most indefatigable, topic tonight was Graham's impressive impromptu induction ceremony. We're all in awe, Graham, of not only how great a job you did, but that you did it at the very last second. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for that kind praise as well. We are running over time, so I'm going to call now upon our vote counter to tell us who won the best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topic for this evening.
It is
Vote
my
counter,
pleasure.
Marianne.
Oh, sorry. It is my pleasure to announce our best evaluator is Dr. Kieran Hall. Our best table topics speaker was Carl Walsh. And our best speaker of the day, none other than our founding president, Mr. David Carr. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you for that. Thank you, everybody. You've heard my general evaluation for the meeting. I don't need to say any more. I'll now hand control of the meeting back to our president to wrap us up, call for guest comments, and send us all home. Andrew, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Graham. You've done great contributions for this meeting. We appreciate all that you've contributed, as well as every single member that first showed up. And it's very important that if we want to have great meetings, we have people that are there. Now, one of the other things that I want you to remember what Graham said and several other people said is that we want to have the meetings well-oiled and have some certainty about what's going on. If you don't know whether you're going to be there, let somebody know. Otherwise, if you say you're going to take a spot and be there, be there. And we will begin the meeting at time at 7:45. If you're not there at that time, we'll find somebody else to take that role, just so that we're not delaying time. David, did you want to try and get...
Why don't you just say your whatever closing remarks, we'll stop the recording and then I can try and sign some people up for next week. But even before we do that, I want to thank people who did go and sign up for next week's meeting already, who responded to my email appeal for that. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Andy, why don't you wrap it up?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you all for being here. Let's look for an exciting, fun year. My number is on the site, abern@mac.com. We look forward to your ideas as you travel around the world. Go to other clubs. If you see something that would work well for our club or be interesting, let us know. We can incorporate it. Back to you, David.
All right. Stop the recording.